G'day and welcome back to the vlog number 5, and I'm sorry but we're talking regulations again. Yeah, I know, but it's a big part of our lives these days. If we fly radio controlled models or drones, we've got to abide by the rules, and the rules are changing quite dramatically, and unfortunately, as I've said before, they're driven mainly by hysteria. And let's start with some of the new rules that have been introduced in a small republic just north of the USA. It's called Kazakhstan. Anywho, it's a little place up there, and they've just got some new rules. And their transport minister, who is Mr. Mark Garneau, I don't know, I can't speak Canadian. Anyway, this chappie, we'll call him the transport minister. He announced a couple of weeks ago, I think it was the 16th of March, he proudly stood up before the nation and said that he wanted to protect the public against the reckless use of drones. That, he said, is putting the safety of Canadians at risk. And, well, what did I stand on? Oops. That's fair enough. What a laudable goal. Protect Canadians from the risk of these reckless use of drones. So, sounds fair, doesn't it? And he also said, I take very seriously the increased risk to aviation safety and to people on the ground caused by drones. Now you might think, well, sensible stuff, really is. But then this happened. Yep, see that? Despite the Transport Minister warning Canadians these drones are deadly dangerous things both to people on the ground and in the air, less than 24 hours after he announced the new drone rules, two light aircraft collided over a shopping mall just outside of Montreal and fell to the ground. One was killed, several were very badly injured. But there were no drones involved in that, no drones at all. In fact, I still repeat, there has never been one verified instance of a recreational drone colliding with a full-size aircraft. But we still have these hysterical rules. Now in Canada, the rules actually aren't too bad. I've got to say, the Canadian government is one of the few governments around the world that have actually drawn a distinction between the traditional, proven safe hobby that we all enjoy and the droners. And how have they done that? Well, in Canada, if you're a member of the MAAC, what is it, I don't know what it stands for. It's the something or other, Aeronautical Association of Model Aeronautical Association of Canada. There we go, I'm old, it comes eventually. If you're a member of the MAAC and you fly an MAAC approved flying field, these new rules do not apply to you. So you've got to get out of jail free card effectively. You can fly without worrying about these new rules. And that's great because it acknowledges the wonderful track record of the hobby. Now, if you are a droner, well, you might have some problems, but they're not insurmountable problems. There's altitude limits, there's distance limits, you can't fly close to buildings and people and dogs and cute little fluffy kittens, which is common sense really, so it might cramp your style a bit. Perhaps the one that I'm not so impressed with is you've got to have your name and address on your drone. And that's kind of like if you lose your drone, then you may find that people say, oh, this guy can afford a drone, let's go and raid his house. I don't know, but I think a phone number would suffice. Or, why not just a phone number? Then people can contact you, or anyone can contact you, and you can be held accountable for your actions. Anyway, so that's the Canadian situation. I think something good to that, something bad to that. But moving on with regulations, here in New Zealand, oh my gosh, you won't believe what they're about to do. Well, it's not a fait accompli yet. They are suggesting this, they are proposing this. The Airways Corporation, which is the commercial arm effectively of civil aviation, and the New Zealand Airline Pilots Association, they want us to first of all have to register our drones and our models and all that sort of stuff, and then, believe it or not, they want us to pay per flight. They want us to log every flight and to pay for it. Seriously, are you kidding me? For a start, if I have to register every model I've got, and even if it's only a couple of bucks a model, it'll bankrupt me. I've got so many models. Why? I'm no threat to anybody. Why am I being taxed for enjoying my hobby? Secondly, if you have to pay for every flight and log it, then what happens when I go out for a session with my DLG? Some of the flights are only 30 seconds, and I might do 30, 40, 50 flights in a day. Even if I have to pay just a couple of bucks a flight, I will again be bankrupted because of this silly, silly thing. And they claim it's because, the airline pilots claim it's because there's a real risk to aircraft. These drones are going to bring down aircraft. Well, I'm sorry, but I actually had someone from the Civil Aviation Authority here a few weeks ago, and I showed him my DLG. And I said, what would happen if a full-size aircraft hit this DLG? And he said, well, nothing would happen to the full-size aircraft, but it would sure make a mess of that light little flimsy plane, wouldn't it? And he's dead right. It's dead right. So why would I be taxed for flying something that poses no threat to anybody simply because some idiots who belong to an Airline Pilots Association and a bunch of desk pilots say it's the right thing to do. Not good enough. Not good enough. I tell you now, I will tell you now, I'm a very pro-safety guy. But if they bring in something like that, I will not comply. I will go to jail before I comply with something as ridiculous as that. Because remember, in this country, anything that flies is a remotely, or anything that flies and is radio controlled is a remotely piloted aircraft. So my little Cheerson CX-10, that's a remotely piloted aircraft, and it's an aircraft, and therefore it falls under the same rules as the big commercial drones. Unacceptable. Not going to happen. I will go to jail before I will log every flight I make. Totally impractical. To even consider such a thing shows how out of touch these people are with reality. Just like the Transport Minister in Canada, who is worried about tiny toys while full-size aircraft fall from the skies and kill people. That's the real issue. Right, something else on here. What have I got? Oh yeah, DJI. Now, the whole drone issue, the whole problem of drones and chasing down whoever's done anything and whose drone was that and catching the people who are doing bad things is an important one. It's a difficult one. So in America, they've got the registration system where you've got to put your little registration number on your drone so that if your drone does something wrong and they get a hold of it, they can find out who you are and punish you accordingly. Fair enough, that would work if they can get hold of your drone. And if someone who plans to do something really stupid has actually complied with the rules and put their number on in the first place, which is probably unlikely. Interestingly enough though, before I get onto the DJI thing, the FAA announced there's over 770,000 registrations by drone operators in America. They've just broken the 770,000 mark. That's a lot of people. In fact, that's almost twice the number of full-size pilots. So we have twice the number of people flying drones and RC models as we do flying full-size aircraft. So surely that means that this great mass of people should be accorded some rights and not just regulated into obscurity. Surely, because we are now in the majority, we should be given access to certain areas of airspace where full-size are excluded, just as drones are excluded from anything above 400 feet. It's about time that the authorities acknowledged the scale of the drone and RC model community and that they pay taxes like everybody else. They must have an equal right to the airspace. If not, then this becomes a punitive measure. It becomes a discriminatory thing. It's probably human rights, God knows. You probably got hold of the human rights people and say, why are we being discriminated against? We pay taxes, we're in the majority, why can we not have access on a pro rata basis to the airspace? Someone should do it, go for it. Anyway, another interesting fact from this statistic is that the membership of the AMA is under 200,000. So round about a quarter, only a quarter of the people who fly any form of remotely piloted model belongs to the AMA. And that's a big change from just a few years ago when the vast majority of model flyers, serious model flyers, were AMA members. So AMA has gone from representing the majority of people flying models to representing just 25% of them or 20% of them. That's a hell of a fall, and it perhaps speaks to the fact that the AMA remains out of touch with the way the hobby's headed. Once the Chinese started bringing out their little foamies and their little toy drones and things, people didn't, whole new crowd of people started flying, and they're not the people who enjoy going down to a authorised flying field on a Sunday morning for a couple of hours and chewing the fat and flying around in circles over a field of grass. No, 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 no. These people, they want to use their models at the local park on a Saturday morning or whenever they choose. They just get their phones, text their mates, hey, let's go flying. They all roll up to the local park, have a fly. That's the new form of the hobby. And it's been made possible because now we're flying foam models that are so much safer than the old nitro and gas-powered behemoths that would kill you if they hit you or slice you into little ribbons. No, smaller, people-friendly models make flying a whole lot safer, and therefore you can fly in areas that you wouldn't have flown otherwise. And these people, the AMA offers them nothing. Now that's a message to the AMA. You need to lift your game. You need to offer these people something. Offer them something. They're not going to pay you money and become a member if it's of no benefit to them. You've got to come up with a benefit and pitch it to them, because you're losing market share dramatically. You may not be losing numbers, but you're losing the share of the market of people who fly things remotely with remote control. So, you know, what can I say? The AMA needs to really, really up its game. They really do. And model flying organisations around the world need to do the same, because this is something I'm pretty sure has happened in every country. Right. Back to DJI. Now DJI have tried to curry favour with the powers that be, because they're the major. Whenever you see a story about a drone posing a threat to an aircraft or spying on people, whatever, there's always a Phantom 4 in the headline. There's a picture of the Phantom 4 there. It's ubiquitous. It is the drone. When people think drones, they think Phantom 4. Now that may change with the Mavic because it's becoming really popular, and for good reason. Mavic's a really cool little craft. A lot of people using it now. Very, very nice. But DJI do not want to get offside with the regulators because they rely on the regulations allowing people to use these things in order for them to sell them. If people can't use them, they won't sell any. So DJI is walking a very fine line. And they've come up with a proposal that they will include a kind of a beacon or a transponder in all their craft. That transponder will transmit a unique registration number and the coordinates of that craft in 3D. So it'll be the latitude, longitude, and altitude to people who have approved receivers. And that's law enforcement, it's the Federal Aviation Authority, field officers, that sort of thing. So they can immediately, if they see a drone, they can see immediately how high it is and exactly where it's located, and more importantly, who owns the drone. So that's a really powerful piece of technology in the right hands, but they haven't probably thought this through. There's a couple of issues here that really need to be examined. Firstly, are DJI going to make this an open system? Will they publish the protocols so that other drone manufacturers can include the same functionality in their drones? So the little receivers that the police and the FAA have are going to be able to work with any drone that's out there. And will that standard then become a mandatory legislative requirement for any drone that flies? It's putting a big burden on smaller craft if the FAA comes out and says, you must only fly a craft that has this transponder in it so that we can track it and find out who's doing the bad things. It becomes really hard to get some of the very hobby grade little toy drones to match that. And if DJI do not choose to make their protocols open so anyone can use it, then you end up with the unenviable situation that other companies have to develop their own versions and the little receivers have to work with 1,000,001 different protocols. That's never going to fly. So then you run the risk that basically DJI own the market because no one else can manufacture a drone with that transponder because they own the transponder technology and they're not going to license it. It's a good idea for DJI because then the only drones you can legally fly are the ones from DJI. That's probably their game plan. And from a commercial perspective, it's a good game plan. If you're the only drone that can legally be flown, you're going to sell all the drones. So they could really push the other players out of the market if they manage to get this accepted. It's a dangerous thing for innovation and for competition in the market though, so we need to look at this very carefully. Another problem with it is that if you publish the protocols, if you make it open, then you open the doors for anyone with half a brain and a little bit of electronics experience, look at me, I could do it, to develop fake transponders or to tweak the transponders so that if I didn't like someone, I could get their registration code, I could fly my drone in dangerous places, the police or whoever would say, oh look, that's Mr. Joe Bloggs is flying, that's his drone, oh we're going to prosecute him, when in fact it might have been me. So it's easy to spoof that data if the protocol's open, but if the protocol isn't open, then only DJI will be able to make the transponders and therefore they will own the market. Bit of a dilemma there, isn't it? What will happen next? We don't know. So keep an eye on that one. It's going to be very, very important. And finally, well, you've seen I've done some videos on some old radio gear I found while I was tidying up the workshop. Yep, quite a bit of stuff here that I've been going through. Now people have said, oh, you must fix them up, get them going again. I probably won't because I just don't have the time. I'm already got some backlogs of reviews on RC model reviews. Some of the reviews I'm doing now have taken a lot of time. That's why there hasn't been a lot of output in the last few weeks. The videos I've been making are really, really long gestation time. It's a lot of hours go into a 20-minute video on some of these topics I'm working on, so stay tuned for those. But I do have an OS Pixie single channel set here with some rubber escapements. I'm really seriously tempted to build an old school balsa and film model with a Cox Baby Bee on the front and a rubber escapement and just button transmitter and show you what it was like, what you had to do in those days. It was great fun. I remember it as being great fun. I'll probably not be so impressed when I do it the second time. Anyway, that's coming up possibly. Now, if you've got comments on anything that I've said today, questions, bung them in the section provided by YouTube, and we'll talk about them because this stuff has to be talked about. We can't just let the bureaucrats and the desk pilots force us into a corner and ruin our hobby, as they tend to be doing, certainly look like to be doing in New Zealand. So if you've got ideas, good ideas for regulation, let us know. If you think your country's pretty crap or pretty good, then say so, because ultimately the best regulations are probably going to be a mix of ideas from all around the world. We just have to get them together and feed them to these bureaucrats if they can put down their donuts long enough to look at it. So there you go. thanks for watching. There'll be another vlog coming out in a week or two. Stay tuned for that. If you're not a subscriber, subscribe. And use the thumbs up. You see a little thumbs up thing down here. Try pressing that. I don't know. Maybe that will make life better for me. I have no idea. But as I say, tell friends about the channel if they don't know about it. And I will see you next time. Bye for now.